our portion of it's still gonna end up being $40,000. But then that crossing should be pretty well taken care of for the next 15 years or so. It's right now, just because you're in a super elevation on the curve and you're so long, the traffic rolls those timbers and it doesn't matter what they do. It just does not wear very well or very long. So the railroad putting concrete crossing panels in there and us paving 15, 20 feet out from it should improve the life and service of that drastically. I think that's pretty much everything that I have.
Figured out. And so that's that shared agreement, so to speak?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we went through that last year and then we discussed it, I think, briefly this winter again.
Well, it kind of strikes me now. I won't.
Yeah, it's not a high traffic crossing, but it's a high maintenance crossing. And unfortunately, we have a lot of that in the county. You know, there's a lot of locations where it's just expensive to keep the dang things open, you know, whether it's a bridge, a culvert, or railroad crossings.
Dwayne, did you mention once about maybe the possibility of us closing one of those crossings?
Yeah.
And if so, how would that benefit us?
The railroad will pay us up to $50,000 to close a crossing, and the IDOT will match that.
So 100,000 to close
Yeah. But
so would 205 be the best one to close?
in my opinion, yes, because there's alternate access to both north and south by just going
One section.
half mile or quarter mile each direction.
So if you guys want to consider really saving money, that might be an option.
Well, and I know we discussed that, when Dee was still on the board. I just didn't know where that had gone, so to speak.
Well, you guys decided you didn't, at the time, you didn't have any interest in looking at that. You know, we talked about it, and I'm not so sure as we didn't have a public hearing on it.
Well, I know we had a long conversation about using some money that we had to repair a crossing, that had wooden railroad ties in and putting concrete in them. And I said no, but the main reason I said no was and I still feel this way as far as the crossings go. I can't see why a Jefferson County taxpayer should be paying the railroad to repair their own crossings.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
But in this case, when we were talking about closing a crossing, then those funds were available to use somewhere else, if I'm not mistaken. Or-
Yeah, if they give us money, it doesn't matter what we use it for, as far as in the road department, there's always, you know, we always have use for extra funds.
And we can apply some of that then towards this other project that you were just discussing, 40,000.
Yeah, so that's the one we've been approved for a grant on.
Okay. But you said it still would cost us about 40,000.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is that if we look at 205 or.
Well, that's the crossing that we
Okay.
got the grant for.
Okay. So that 205 is on one level, we're talking about potentially closing, and on another level, we're talking about repairing. Okay.
Yeah, we have a grant to improve it. You know, to reduce future costs going forward.
How many people would that affect or what out there?
Oh, gosh, I think the traffic counts less than 50 vehicles a day.
Right, yeah,
Yeah, it's,
Well, what we would be doing is we would be paving a small portion of the approaches to it.
yeah. Yeah, and I'm not sure if that offer is still on the table for them paying us to close it. I can certainly ask, worst case, they say no.
I would like you to ask. And then maybe these guys would allow thinking about that.
No, I mean, it's $140,000 turnaround on that one,
Mhm.
Correct.
so. um, You know. Paving approaches is one thing, repairing the crossing is something else altogether different in my estimation. And when you consider how long the railroad leaves our crossings closed when they decide to do something, is not having camper about that either. But yeah, I mean, nothing venture, nothing gain. We reach out and then we can have the discussion as to the advantage of not spending 40,000 and pocketing 100 if it's available.
But also remember, once you close the crossing, you'll never get it opened again.
Right.
So.
I mean, that's
permanent.
you'd have the public hearing and have the conversation. I don't know how that crossing compares to others as far as the number of vehicles a day. Obviously, there's some that are more, there's probably some that are less. I don't know.
Well, you've got crossings such as Redwood that has 3 houses north of the tracks, but that crossing is the only way those houses
Right.
have service. And if you close that crossing, you've got 2 miles of road that you'd have to upgrade to gravel at, what we end up figuring it cost on Palm for the 1.5 miles, 150,000, so $200,000.
Well, and I guess that's another question that we probably would have, and we can have this, it's not on the agenda, but we can have this conversation later, but. Emergency vehicles and access.
Sure.
How much time is,
Sure.
so. So yeah, if you would be so kind as to see what you can find out, and then we'll go from there.
And I also think Lee, it behoove you and Joe to drive out there and look at it and see which way the traffic really goes.
Okay. So we now have sound, so unless you're really in a rush, if you can bear with us for a minute, we're gonna,
good.
if the board will allow, we'll drop down to number 6, discuss and consider adding slip resistant footwear. Stacy's on from workman's comp, and I don't know, does Darcy want to be in here or not, or can you?
I don't think so.
Okay, so Stacy, can you hear me?
Mute. Yep, I was on mute. Sorry, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm gonna turn the time over to you to discuss the policy about slip resistant footwear.
Yep, so this is just something that's come up in the safety meetings a few times. IMWCA about 4 years ago sponsored a study up in Northwest Iowa, similar to the grant that was awarded to the sheriff's office not long ago. They're in Jefferson County. So up in Northwest Iowa, where they get a lot more snow and ice, they studied the effects of adding slip resistant footwear policies, and we provided the equipment for that. And they found a significant reduction in their number of slips, trips, and falls up in that area and resulting injuries from those cases because they didn't have them. So we took that information and said, you know what, if this works up in Northwest Iowa, we think it will work throughout the state. Slips, trips, and falls pool-wide are about 25% of our claims and the number of claims and the amount and the dollars spent. So we felt like this was a very good investment. So about 4 years ago when they finished that study, we opened it up to the entire state. So what you can do with us is you can fill out our grant application. It's an implementation grant. You fill out our grant application, let us know how many pairs of slip resistant footwear you're going to order, the amount of those, and then we pay for those at 100%. What we do is that we require you to train your people on that slip resistant footwear, and there's some from our free training that you guys are involved in with the Learn. You have to do that. We want to see it in about the October timeframe, hopefully before most of the severe stuff hits. And then we also want to see it again in March. And the reason being is that one last hit that Mother Nature always seems to give us, we do have a huge influx of slips, trips, and falls because people have gotten complacent with that information. So we do want to see that happen twice. And then you do also have to pass a policy, which I believe is what the intent of the agenda item is, that says that if there is inclement weather forecasted or on the ground, your employees are required to wear their footwear that you paid for. We'll do this one time. So we will outfit all of your employees this time, and then the expectation is at least for a minimum of the next 2 years, the county will fund additional employees that are hired and replacement if they do wear out.
And this is a recommendation from the safety committee to implement the policy, just, that wasn't
Yes.
clear.
Yep, I apologize.
So who determines who has to wear these?
It would be anybody that we provide the footwear to. So if, and you can do it department by department. We can't single out employees. We don't want to see that. But you can specify that there are certain departments that are going to participate in the grant. So if we pay for their footwear, they are required to follow your policy that you're going to pass.
If we add policy to the manual, then it's a mandate for everybody.
Well, we could make it discretionary, you know, if you want, or if you want to augment the policy, so it says specific departments that the expectation is they would wear slip-resistant footwear, because it seems like it may not be necessary for everybody, but that's something that you can decide. So basically, once you decide who gets the slip-resistant footwear, we'll get that first shipment, but then we will have to make sure that we're providing those going forward, so we can limit it to specific departments or specific jobs within those departments, whatever you see fit.
Well, a concern I have, and maybe it's actually isn't a concern, Dwayne. When I think of cleats and spikes and other traction aids, I'm not sure I want people with spikes on their shoes trying to climb in and out of their equipment.
That's the,
And while you're climbing in and out of the equipment and you take the last step off, if you don't have them on, but then trying to put them on and climb in and out of the equipment. And then in the case of ambulances, I get it, you're going up the sidewalk, you're rolling cars, you take them off before you go to a patient's house.
Okay, if I can help. So part of the study up in Northwest Iowa, we had those. We had ambulance, we had law enforcement, we had roads. We included all of those, streets and roads. So what the results of the study was that there's a company out there. You're not looking for Yaks tracks. You're not looking for specific ice cleats. We're not looking for the most severe weather. 90% of your employees are going to be on semi-treated product. They're going to be on sidewalks that have been treated, but maybe they're not completely clear. And the same thing with your roads. You don't want them getting out of a truck with ice cleats into their shop, because then it becomes slick if you're wearing the Yaks tracks or something similar. So what the study brought out is that, and there's multiples out there, but you're looking for the term transitional footwear. They're not the big spikes and spirals. They will work for inside and outside. You don't have to take them off if you're an ambulance person. You don't have to take them off if you're law enforcement, and you don't have to take them off if you're roads. They work for both, and they work for both areas. Instead of being the big spirals and the spikes, they're a shorter spike and more of a graphite type paper, more of a sandpaper. We actually have them in our office. Our office funds them for us too, and they don't tear up the inside of my car. But I can also wear them out to walk my dogs and, on the semi-treated stuff. So we're not providing something to your employees to go ice fishing with, if that makes sense.
so snow tires as opposed to chains on the tires.
Yes, there you go. Good comparison.
Well, I guess what I would like to see is if there's some pictorial examples or something that Dwayne can look at, that Josh can look at. Do we expect folks coming from their car into the offices to have these on?
That would be at your discretion, but I mean, it sounds like certainly from what Stacy's saying, we're looking at, ambulance, roads, law enforcement. I don't, I'm so.
The thing is if you include, for instance, your auditor's office, if you include them in the grant, then yes, the expectation is that they would wear them from their car into the office, because if they slip and fall in the parking lot, that is a workplace injury. And I have one on the books right now that's costing us $225,000. What I do personally, and I recommend this to all my members, is that when that severe weather hits, and I already have a pair, I have gone to Walmart, I bought the cheapest pair of tennis shoes that was on clearance, and that's where those stay. Those cleats stay on that pair of shoes. So I don't have to put these cleats onto a pair of shoes and then when I come in, take them back off. I slip my feet into that pair of shoes, and then when I get into my office space, I switch my entire footwear.
So the $64 question is, do we require steel-toed boots and stuff at the road department? And then is there a cover that goes on that does that, or do you have to have a separate steel-toed shoe?
You get to pick your footwear. And so we utilize, and they will give you a discount for being our member. It's called winterwalking.com. And you can pick out whatever line that you prefer to utilize with them. And yes, like I said, we worked with roads, we worked with streets that have the steel toe requirement, and they do fit on top of those. You are more than welcome. The cost on them is somewhere between $25 and $30 a piece. You are welcome to order from them now and look at them and try them on your boots that you have now and make sure that they're the product that you want. And if you've purchased them now and you do decide to go forward with the grant, we'll reimburse you for those as well.
So, I don't know, it's a board one.
Yeah, I've got a question. If we decide the road department should get them, does that mean every employee has to get them and wear them? Or
Yep.
just at their discretion?
Nope, there's no discretion because you're going to pass a policy that says they have to wear them.
Okay, so who's going to police it or whatever if somebody comes to work and forgets them or something like that? What's the consequences there?
I'm only one person, so I'm not going to know that. Now, if they come to work without them and fall and have to file a claim, then I'm going to come back in on the backside and I'm going to require documentation that employee was disciplined for failure to wear their personal protective equipment.
Good point.
That would be on us.
Mhm.
And it
Okay.
protects the county, right, obviously, in those slip and falls, or, potentially limiting the number, preventative. But then also on the backside, if they're required to wear them and they're not, then that's protecting the county in
point,
those
yeah.
claims.
I would like to see what we're dealing with before I move on ahead.
I as well, I have some. Anytime you mandate something. Well, the intention is, and I would be curious. And I don't know whether there's any data to this point, but I would be curious. If there was any situation where something like this, of this nature was mandated. And somebody was hurt as a, can't even figure out how I want to say it.
As a result of.
As a
wearing it.
result of, yes. And what that looks like. I mean, it's one thing to recommend and provide the equipment if somebody wants to. It's another to mandate it. And so I don't know, that's a discussion we have, but I think if we can see some pictures or some.
Lee.
Somebody say something?
Chris.
Yeah.
Hey,
Hey, so maybe the three of you could come to the safety committee at some point and Stacy could bring her shoes with her winter shoes and then have a discussion, because this is something we've discussed for years with the safety committee. And when we review the claims, the work comp claims, it's costing the county significant dollars when you have a work comp claim for something like that. So if the three of you could come to a safety committee, that would be great. I don't know, Stacy, what do you think, Elizabeth? I mean, because this is something we've all discussed. You've got several members of the safety committee either on the Zoom or in the room. And I think we struggled trying to move forward with something. So that's why we wanted to have it on the agenda so you guys could discuss it before we put in all the work of writing the policy and implementing things, because if we don't have buy-in, honestly, we're not gonna take the time to move forward with it. Does that make sense?
No, for me, it makes sense as far as that part goes.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that. I'm a visual, I guess.
Me too. And it would be, Stacy, was that something you could?
Yeah, I have mine with me all the time.
Okay.
They reside in the back of my car until right at this point in the year. And I will also see if I can't get a hold of a couple other more aggressive. I use ones that we recommend for admin and clerical staff, just because I'm not out plowing roads. So let me see if I can get the boss to buy me a couple pair to have as samples. That's not a bad idea, of the more aggressive that that the study recommended for streets, roads, law enforcement, your outdoor type work.
I also wonder too, I mean, if there's a website that the department heads can go to, especially with those department heads that maybe the departments that are more at risk, they can find their own footwear that's gonna work for them, that would meet the qualifications, and then bring, and then we can discuss that at safety committee, bring it to you guys, because they're gonna be the ones who would know what kind of footwear would work the best for them.
Yeah, we can definitely, it's just a website. It's winterwalking.com. The only thing is I would recommend that, and I will get that information today, hopefully, of the products that they used, up in Northwest Iowa, because I will be honest, they went through more than one, product. They found one product I know that, was not aggressive enough and didn't hold up for their roads department. They had to go one step further than they thought they needed to. So, and I don't want to see you caught in that. I don't want to see your roads department having worn out footwear in, 2 months within one season. So, let me get I'll get you the website. Christy, can I just email that stuff to you?
It's,
Okay, I will. Yeah, I'll reply to your email that we had late last week, and I will get you if you can disseminate that, I will get you the website. That one's easy. And then I'll get you the products that I think there's about 3 of them that we do recommend for usage, so that you guys are aware, what worked, because they did find some that didn't through the study that we funded.
Yeah, that would be great, because Lee, to your point, I'm visual as well, and I want to see things and hold them and look at them and have a discussion about it. And either at the safety committee meeting, or if you have a department head meeting, that might be an opportunity for the department heads too, to look at them and see. So I appreciate you letting me speak. Thank you.
No, that's not a problem, and it's dumb as it sounds, of course, you gotta consider the source, I'm saying that, so. I'm getting ahead of the game where Susie's concerned here. I have boots, they call muck boots. And if you aren't used to wearing those, and then you put them on and you get in a vehicle and try and drive it, it's entirely different sensation. And so I wonder about that as well. If it's something that you're wearing, so that's why I think it's important that you guys and the sheriff's department as well, in particular. Obviously, we've had a situation with one of our employees in the past that would probably be a good thing in terms of for their benefit, but yeah, I think we take a look at it and see and get input from you guys and go to a safety committee meeting, and I'm all for that before we jump into the deep end of the pool.
Stacy, do you know what county you did the study in off the top of your head?
So there's a coalition actually up in Northwest Iowa. They use one safety consultant, and he worked with members and non-members. So he had a control group. I can't tell you exactly which ones were utilized, but I can get you some names.
That would be great. Thank
Do
you.
you guys
Yep.
have some miracle footwear that you wear? Fire department?
Fire boots.
That's my point.
In other words, they don't show up in
Of
sandals.
course, no, but see where they're going, the snow melts because of the fire, so it's.
Always.
Oh, dear.
I know.
I've been stuck on the
So,
ground fighting fires.
I think. What do we want to do here as far as, because it does say to consider. But to Chris's point, till we get a little further down the road, they don't want to write a policy. Am I saying that right, Chris?
Right, right. We want to make sure that you guys are gonna have, you're gonna approve it. So we don't want to go through and do all the work or make that recommendation officially, like Elizabeth said. This is what we want from you guys, because it has to start with the safety committee and then goes to you guys for approval. But if you're not ready to make a decision, we just don't want to be in the middle of winter and be having this conversation. That's why we're having this conversation now for
Yeah.
for the coming winter and bad weather. So that's kind of where we're at. And that's why we're kind of moving forward. We're trying to move forward with it in some capacity. But nobody wants to implement something that's not going to work for everyone. However, it's our job as a safety committee to try to mitigate injury and accidents, to keep our employees safe, to make sure the equipment's working for everyone, and to save money on our work comp claims. So there you have it. So if you need to, if you need to table it for a month or two, that's fine. I just don't want it to get lost in the shuffle and then it be
No,
November.
I agree with you there. And that was my thought process is that we're coming out of winter rather than going into winter. So we'll take I agree, we don't want to wait till next winter, but if we take our time, then maybe what we.
Okay, I'll ask for a goal. Maybe we can adopt, maybe you guys can consider it before July 1st. That would make me happy, just so it doesn't get lost someplace. Because we know how busy things get, and then there'll be a timing issue to get the right sizes and to get the supplies ordered if that's the case as well.
Board, I'm fine. with
Well, I suggest that the department heads talk to their departments and get a feedback what your employees, what the workers are thinking about it.
Well, that's why there's
That
like
seem reasonable, Josh? I mean,
Well, but again, I mean, I wanna see what the options are and what would work for us, cause what
Yeah.
worked for us would be different than
yeah,
everybody else.
I
so.
agree.
Lee, I think it starts with the three of us going to a safety committee meeting
Right.
so we can see this.
Yeah,
Then the rest of it will fall in line. Chris, when's your
And I-
next safety committee meeting?
it's the second Wednesday of the month,
Which
So-
is May, it is.
uh,
Yeah,
Before two.
May 14th. I'm looking at
What
the
time?
calendar, sorry.
'cause that's my.
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock?
Yeah.
How long do they last? I've
Long
got a
as it
Rust,
takes-
I've got a Rust board meeting at 11 in my.
We're usually done in an hour
Yeah.
Okay,
at the outset.
where do you meet at?
Public health.
We've been meeting
Oh.
with public health, kind of move
Well,
around.
we've been meeting at public health, but the next meeting is not at public health because I'm on standby for jury duty. So I think we're meeting at the courthouse. Are we not?
in
Sheriff's office?
here,
Yeah.
in the boardroom?
Yeah,
Okay,
Yes.
Well, that's convenient.
yeah,
Don't even have to go anyplace.
Well,
Except
I
show
ju-
up.
I'm not, my
you gonna
calendar
be-
doesn't.
I can't make it.
Yeah, my calendar doesn't allow me to be at that one, but I'll get you the products.
Okay.
So you can put hands on them, and I'm in another safety committee meeting. They're all pretty generous with me. So if you have a question, just shoot me a quick phone call.
Okay.
okay. So I've got it written down for the 14th. I probably have to leave here by 10 or shortly thereafter to make the other meeting, but that's all right. And then I would invite you guys to.
I'll be there anyway, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, I guess you would.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. And the sheriff's department, anybody from the sheriff's department, because we need input as to what.
There's always someone.
yeah, Sherry often.
You guys
Yeah.
do.
Me
We're
first.
all
Or
there.
Chris. Yeah.
We're all there.
Somebody from the jail, yeah, but everybody from the different departments are generally there. so.
Okay.
Yeah. And conservation. So if you're thinking about that, yeah. We have
Right.
good representation. So I appreciate the discussion because we just want to try to move forward with it. So thank you.
All
And thanks
right.
Thanks, everybody.
Stacy, thank you. I think at this point we'll.
Yep.
At least wait till the safety committee meeting and then. Figure out, maybe we'll have more. Information and
Yep, makes sense.
visuals, so,
Sounds good.
all right, is that okay, Elizabeth?
Works for me.
Okay,
Do we need a motion to table it or anything or not? Or just-
yeah, it's on there, so let's go ahead and do that.
I move we table this, the safety meeting, the
14th.
14th of May and discuss further.
Second,
Second.
discussion. Do we want to put this on the agenda after the meeting, so say for the
19.
the 19th of May. Have more discussion to give direction to the safety committee or or after we go to the meeting? What do you think, folks?
We put it on for the 19th to have discussion, consider, if we don't have to make a decision yet then.
Are you all planning on attending that safety committee meeting? It sounds like it, right? So that would be on the agenda, and then if you want to make a formal motion, I guess. If it's on an agenda and it's a public meeting, you could choose to act on it, you could do it
Okay.
at the next board meeting.
I agree with Elizabeth.
Is it on the 14th?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine, Elizabeth.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I won't say anything. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, everybody. Okay, where are we? We are back up with ambulance director.
Thanks, Dwayne.
Catch it.
All right.
Do you always turn left right now?
Just like the stock car, right?
So staffing, we have 2 full-time openings and a part-time opening. Again, we're losing Mike Long. I think his last shift is this week. So we've shifted a couple people around. I try to accommodate their schedules as best as I can. But right now we have 2 full-time openings and a part-time. I do have postings on IMSA and on LinkedIn and, or not LinkedIn, Indeed. And I've got an application already over the weekend, so I'll look into that and,
Probably on our website as well.
oh, I don't know.
I just.
Yeah, I don't know if we are. I'll probably not, but I'll update that. Otherwise, we are working on, it's a really weird process. We're trying to get, or we're looking at getting certified as a lab, with the intent of running troponin tests in the field, which troponin test is troponins are enzymes that are released in the event of a cardiac issue, so like a heart attack. So if we're able to run a simple blood test in the field to determine or help us determine if a patient is in fact having a cardiac event, then we can potentially bypass Jefferson County and go to somewhere like Atumwa or Burlington that has a cath lab. So it was presented to me by one of our staff who's like super aggressive, which is awesome. I ran it by Dr. Moreno, and now we're looking into paperwork and figuring out what we need to do for all of that. So I think it's going to be quite a process, but at the end of it, I think it's going to be worth it.
So then will all our medics have to have this certification?
No, which it basically just says it gives us permission as an ambulance service to run this test, which is just completely asinine to me because it's a blood sample on it almost looks like a pregnancy test. But it's a blood sample on that, and then it just says positive for troponins with varying degrees.
Kind of like taking my iron levels.
Yeah. And we tried to get a basically an exception, but the test that we want to use doesn't qualify for that exception. So now we have to go through the whole process of being certified. So
is it the EMS Bureau that certifies?
it's the state laboratory something or other. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, we're working on that. Again, I don't think that's it's not going to be a huge amount of work, but it's just tedious stuff. So I think that's going to be cool though. From the sounds of it, would be the only, well, one of very few services that are doing that. But again, I think if we can bypass Jefferson County, which, you know, they just can't do a lot for cardiac issues. They're gonna transfer that patient out anyway. So let's save the patient an ER bill and a couple hours and get them to a facility that can actually do something about it. So that's the hope. I am meeting with the nursing homes in town and some of the hospital staff to discuss ambulance transports and billing. We just continue to have little issues. Like if we go to a nursing home and the nursing home says, well, this patient needs to go to the hospital. And the patient says, I don't want to go to the hospital. And then it's just a back and forth about, well, their POA is on the phone and just a bunch of nonsense. And so I think we need to just have some conversations and figure out kind of both sides about what our priorities are versus what their priorities are and try to mitigate some of those things. So.
Well, so, and I'm sure you've thought this all through, but I'm asking in the form of a question. So if our crews respond, say, to a nursing home, somebody from the nursing home and not the patient is the one that made the call, correct?
Almost always,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. So my point is that when you get to the location, irregardless, and I'm asking this in the form of a question, irregardless of whether the individual under consideration wants to go or doesn't want to go, once the call's put in, I think the policy should be that if that there's an understanding that the nursing home will pay for the call. Now, if we transport, it's going to be a different cost, sure, but I'm talking about just going shouldn't be a freebie. Now, if you're going to have to sit there and wait while they decide, are they going to go or not going to go, and they go, well, I guess we're not going to use you after all, Josh, and you go back, no. Somebody's got to pay for that.
Which I don't disagree with that at all. And I mean, it doesn't happen often, but it does happen, I think, enough that it needs to be a
Well, I
conversation,
understand.
which is why we're having
Right,
this.
I understand. If an individual doesn't want to go, they don't want to go. I
Right.
get that.
But and part of the problem is that the nursing home staff often don't get that piece of it. They're told that the patient needs to go to the hospital for whatever reason. Now, and again, this is completely separate from the true emergencies. Someone's having a stroke, a cardiac event, you know, if they fell and they're on blood thinners, those are obvious. We're not gonna argue with those things. But if a patient has abnormal lab values and the doctor says they need to go to the hospital, there is no medical necessity for an ambulance transport for that. And the nursing home staff lose it. So those are the things that we're trying to mitigate and, you know, just explain like it's kidnapping if we take you against your will. But their policy is that this patient has to go. So how do we figure those things out? That's really what it's, yeah.
I know, you guys keep bringing my wife back.
There's some other stuff, we won't go there. I was like, there's some other steps we can take.
I know, that's okay.
And you know something, I think, I disagree with Lee, it's the exact opposite. You should not leave her, take her, you should take him.
Oh, we should take him? Yeah, yeah.
Remember, that's kidnapping.
Again, there are steps.
Oh, okay.
Take you to the funny farm and leave you there. I did get to mow the lawn on Friday. That was super fun. I came down and got the lawnmower from Dave. And drove it 20 blocks, which, whatever.
Yeah, I heard you were popping weeds.
I wish. Almost. That steering on that thing is weird, but yeah. And then he does have a push mower that that's actually getting worked on now at True Value. So I think we'll continue to do that. And I mean, hopefully eventually it's not just me doing it, but other staff as well. So, but I had fun. It was cool. No training program updates. Our packet is still at with the state. I am going to reach out to them this week and see if we can get any inkling about anything that we need to do or any update on that. I am still working on the courses and getting the lectures and stuff squared away, but I'm a little reluctant to spend any more money. When I don't know what the state's gonna do with it. I mean, I don't know that, I don't think they'll deny it, but I don't know for sure, so. So I think we talked about a couple weeks ago, there's a conference in California that I need to go to, that I'm supposed to go to. It's a workshop for accreditation. Again, I've just kind of been hesitant on that without knowing what the state is gonna do, because it's gonna be like $1,000 to go out to that, so. Hopefully I can get something from the state, either a nudge, just to say, yeah, we're probably gonna do this or whatever, so.
And you might reach out and say, hey, I really don't want to spend this money to go do this.
Right, right.
You know, I'm not suggesting you tell me flat out one way or the other, but
Yeah, well, like if you can tell me like the chances of denial are very slim, cool. I'm good with that. We'll move forward, but I do have probably 15 people already that are interested in doing the paramedic class when it starts. So, and that's without any sort of advertising whatsoever, so. I think if they need to, if the state wants to see a need for it, then we definitely have that in place, so. Yeah,
how
that's
did
all I got.
your foray into Washington go?
Oh, it was good. It was good. I think we left there with our heads spinning, but we came out with a lot of notes and you know, just like any other meeting, you go in with more work to do when you leave. So, but yeah, they give us a lot of good information and kind of some things that we need to look at that we hadn't considered yet. So,
So did you see something that that was indicative of why there apparently is a disparity between what they're receiving in reimbursement and what we receive in reimbursement?
nothing directly.
I mean, I would almost have thought if you'd have asked me, it had something to do with coding, but I mean, I don't know how else you
Yeah.
change reimbursement.
I don't know. Like, well, in the conversation there this morning, I've not been thrilled with the EMS/MC, but because I mean, the mayor gave me a bill for services in July that have yet to be resolved.
If I could speak about this,
Sure.
I talked to Connie Boyer and her husband had to use the ambulance services July 8th last year. She finally got a bill.
Yeah, she just got this
Yeah.
bill last week.
So whoever was running the ambulance last July 8th, I'm wondering what happened.
Well,
Because this hasn't been paid
And I don't,
or remitted.
and I don't even like, I wouldn't even necessarily blame anybody but the billing service,
Yeah,
because they, you know, they,
Well, aren't the reports required to be at the state 24 hours?
yes.
yes.
Well, that's the run report. That has nothing to do with the billing side of things.
Yeah, but doesn't some of that somewhere, somehow or another automatically reported to the billing company?
The run reports do,
Yeah.
Believe the thing is,
but
Josh wasn't here.
No,
Well,
I-
yeah.
And we, it just needs, we cannot have that.
No, I get it,
Yeah.
but my point is that if it was sent up to the billing company, and I don't know that obviously, but we should be able to check to see what they received.
right.
They should be able
And
to tell us.
I looked at it last week and I can't tell you what I found because I just don't remember, but I know it's in our billing system. I can tell you that for certain. I just don't remember
Well, here's the obvious,
what the,
okay? If the call was in July of last year,
Mhm.
okay? We took over in August of last year. So, you know, unless,
no, this. Well, yeah, it was July of, yeah.
so I'm inclined to believe that the bill was, or the call was sent to the billing company.
It was,
It just,
and I don't, yeah. And like I said, I can't tell you exactly what the issue was, but for it to be,
which is one of the reasons that we've decided that among others, that we're probably by doing it in-house, and it was a learning process. We're starting something new and, you know, we figured we'd lean on somebody else's expertise to help us through this process, which I think was probably the right thing to do. Whether it was the right organization, obviously could be up for discussion. I mean, the red flags went up, warning bells went off for us when they blew it on the Medicare.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, I think it was the right decision at the time. Now, the rest of it's debatable, but yeah, now we have the opportunity to change it up, so.
yeah,
Yep,
I've got a question.
absolutely.
You was up there for talking to them about billing in Washington County.
Yes.
If they have a rejection, do they resubmit it and have better success if it's rejected, or what becomes of that on some of that stuff?
Yeah, so, and again, I think it's gonna be easier to deal with those things in-house where we know exactly who's taking what steps. But yeah, they're more than willing to meet with us again and help us out as we go through the process. But yeah, they can make those phone calls directly and appeal some of those decisions, and
Do they have very
Provide-
many of them, or
I don't think so. I don't think they get a lot of,
they get it
Appeals,
correct the
but-
first time?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And they're 60% consistently on reimbursements and stuff, so yeah.
which is impressive.
Significantly more, like, well, our numbers from March were 37% and from February 22%.
So even if we just get to 50,
Yeah,
that's a positive.
In my
Perfect.
business, I want 100% reimbursement.
well, that'd be great. That'd be
That's
fantastic.
my business. not this.
Yeah,
Never missing an opportunity to get a dig into the legislature and our illustrious state senator. And we need to make a phone call about Medicaid reimbursement.
yeah, they can't.
I'm just glad you're going to a different system and keeping it in-house in
Yeah.
October.
Yeah, I think it'll be, they did recommend, like a full-time billing person.
Well, we got 3,
Well,
all full time.
they, yeah. You know, not quite what they meant, but.
Seriously, don't fall for that.
But I think the plan that we've kind of talked about in-house is gonna work out pretty well, cause, Cassie's there actually 3 days every week. So she's there for 2 12s and a 24, so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then Sarah's there over the weekend. So just between those two, I think we'll have checks and balances in there, and then me as another set of eyes, and I think it's gonna work out pretty well.
Well, and I would like, I know the board is very appreciative that they were willing to step up, but if you would reiterate that, I would appreciate it, that they were. willing
Oh,
to
absolutely.
take
Yep.
this on.
Yep.
Anything else for Josh? Huh?
Just kicked him, so sorry.
That's all.
Better she kicked you than me.
The morning's still young.
He's not as old as you.
Yeah, I can handle
So
it.
don't leave yet.
Okay.
Discuss and consider a board of supervisor ex officio appointment to
Oh,
the
yes.
ambulance academy advisory board. I'm gonna let you explain what all of that means.
Yeah, so for the EMS training program, we have to have, really, we have to have a medical director and a program director and a public, like non-related healthcare provider or non-healthcare provider, public member, and a couple other things, but I think it would be beneficial to have somebody from the board sit on that committee as really just another voice and, I mean, not a voting member, because myself, the medical director, well, specifically those two are non-voting members, but I think it'd be beneficial to have somebody from this board sit on that committee as well as a non-voting member.
Lee, you've been following this all along. It's been your baby. Are you willing to sit on that advisory board?
Well, I certainly am, but the reason I felt that it should be ex officio, Elizabeth, was because if something was to come back before the board of supervisors.
Right.
I felt like that it was more of an ex officio position rather than an active voting member on the advisory board.
I guess ex officio, to my mind, just means that somebody is kind of automatically appointed to a board on the basis of their position.
Well, yeah, I guess maybe I didn't say it right, or maybe that wasn't the right term. I was just concerned, when you sit on a board, like when I was on, well, we all have been on the feeder board or Chamber of Commerce, we were ex officios. We weren't voting
You're
members.
not a voting member.
Right.
Okay.
And in this particular instance, I just felt like that there was always the potential that something would come from the advisory board back to the board of supervisors that we would have to have discussion and vote on, and it seemed like there was a potential conflict of interest there, was what I was thinking. So just sitting on the board as a member of the board of supervisors, which the board isn't gonna meet all that often, but the advisory board, but that kind of like a committee report, so to speak.
So it would be, I guess, more appropriately just a non-voting board member.
Yeah,
So one of the board of supervisors would participate as a non-voting board member.
right.
Okay.
And, as far as that part of it goes, but there's always potential for something on this advisory board, since it happens to be with the academy, the teaching and all of that, where there might be some costs associated with it down the road or something of that nature. And so I just felt like it was more appropriate to, hey, how you doing?
Can you tell me where the sanitarium, the Jefferson County Sanitarium?
He is out at the engineer's office on North 8th Street.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
So I think you're saying you somehow feel it's a conflict of interest. or
I
could
just think potentially there could be,
I
If,
agree- I
if it's a
agree with
voting
you.
member.
yeah.
Well, I sat on the Board of Health as a non-voting member. We had a meeting the other night. I throwed in my thoughts on a lot of things. I was the devil's advocate there and talked to Jerry yesterday at church. He appreciated things I brought up. I says, I'm an outsider basically looking in to see on stuff. So I.
That
think
was
it's-
just, yeah, and that was just my thought process in regards to who sat on it, was just not to put that individual in between the proverbial rock and hard place.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you'll still have input for information and stuff. Yes.
Well, and
Yes.
you may be able to head some things off at the pass, but there's some things that the board's going to need to have a conversation about that you don't want to head off
Right.
pass.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I looked at it that way. Maybe ex officio isn't the right word, but just a non-voting participant.
What other word could you come up with? That covers it. It's what's you're gonna be.
At the risk of being kidnapped by the ambulance, I might go further than that.
Oh, they'll
We
put
won't
okay.
kidnap you, I promise.
Yeah.
So,
Are you sure?
I'm sorry.
so are we ready to move forward on this?
Whatever you want to do, I just wanted it to be on there so that you could have the conversation. And I don't know, maybe you don't. I mean, he's indicating he'd like to have a member of the board on there, whether or not it's necessary, that's,
Mhm.
I feel like we should have an input on that. If we're ready to move forward, I move that Lee Devitt be the ex officio on the advisory board.
I would be happy to do that, but that's I don't think it matters really who's there.
It's been your baby all along to get this going and. So,
Well, this is his,
Mhm.
I just want to help facilitate
Yeah,
it,
no, I appreciate that.
so. Of course, your schedule will have to be my schedule. Anyway, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
You can second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
I,
Opposed, same sign. So we won't meet again until next year. Is that right?
No, that's not right.
Okay. Discuss and consider resolution to dissolve, oh, this must be a Susie thing or an Elizabeth thing. Discuss and consider resolution to dissolve 28E agreement with the hospital.
Oh, do I need to get hit by this? Because this is about the ambulance, isn't it?
More specifically, it's just involving the 2080 Jefferson County Ambulance Service Agency. It's already been dissolved, so you guys are just kind of rubber stamping it and then, you know, designating, I guess, who's going forward, you know, allowing other county members to contribute to the winding up of it, I guess. And this came about because it's, like I said, has been dissolved. I guess there is some question as to allocation of the assets, whatever they may be, and that should be dictated by the 2080. But I don't know, Susie, if you have some more thoughts on that.
Yes, I do. And Julie, I see you're online, so hop in if you want to. We met in January. I was asked by Brian Hunger how I thought we should divide things up. I said 3 ways. Fast forward to last Tuesday. First, Julie made the comment, maybe we should take the money and put it in escrow and give it to you for a certain purpose, like a new ambulance, you know, to save for that. And Brian Hunger informed me that there was a negative balance and we would not be getting any money. Something about, now Julie helped me out here, that we had not participated last fall in that. So I'm a little leery about this. Of course, we should dissolve this, but I was, just to be really honest, it gave me pause. Because I guess
think it was
if-
budgeted for,
Huh?
I think it was budgeted for.
Well, I think we should check that out.
What do you mean a negative balance? I don't understand that.
My checking account?
Yeah, it's kind of like a check thing. Elizabeth, you still have that sheet of paper, that worksheet that the financial
Yes,
guy
I do.
gave me?
apparently Julie's not on.
Oh, from the.
I mean, regardless,
She's on.
if you know, we'll just go forward with approving the dissolution.
Yes, I think. we
And
should.
then I think there might be some financial questions outstanding if they aren't already governed by the 2080, and I could not find a copy of it. So I'm certain that it exists somewhere, but.
Hopefully.
I mean-
Okay, this is Julie. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, yeah, actually, when we met a long time ago, there was money there and we were going to, we did talk about possibly just passing that on. But now it appears there's a negative balance because nobody contributed at all this past year. So what I think the decision was since there was nothing to pass on, we would not pass on the debt to the county, and the city and the hospital would split the negative balance and not pass the third on to the county.
You understand.
Money gone.
Julie, thank you.
You're welcome.
So it's just showing me here.
So if there was money before, now there's negative.
Oh.
I don't know. Huh.
That's why she was slow.
Well, this came from the hospital.
Gave me pause. That's from the Brett, the
Okay.
financial guy at the hospital.
Okay. Because,
You know, I just wanted you to be aware of this because in January, I had said, January of this year, I had said that Brian had asked me that question about dividing it by 3, and I guess I assumed there'd be money to divide by 3.
well, in the 22-23 budget, we budgeted $45,000. We took over the ambulance in October of 23. Total activity for 22-23 was $51,666.67. This is out of general basic, by the way.
Mhm.
In 23-24, total activity was $13,333.33. We paid an additional, and this goes back to, Elizabeth may remember this, Julie may remember this. We wrote an additional check, I believe in the amount of 16,000 and some change for care ambulance.
When was that again?
Would have been at the closing out, as I recall. It was an amount that the ambulance board had agreed upon. Forgive me, I can't remember all the details, but it was our share of the monies that we hadn't been paying because they hadn't been doing. And at the end of the day, to kind of settle things, we
We put an amount in escrow, is
yes,
that correct?
Yes.
And I apologize, I'm ignorant of those proceedings, Chauncey was handling that. So if there are additional conversations about the finances as we kind of wind up this agency, maybe those should continue.
well, I'm just looking at, and those monies that we put in escrow ultimately went to care, it didn't go to the hospital. It passed through, so to speak. With all of the other related expenses, but, that's, like I say, out of general basic. And it was listed as an expense. Beyond that, where the funds went, I don't know, because when we got the ambulances back, we put a lot of money in those ambulances because they had not been taken care of. But that presumably then there were no bills submitted for that. But if there's a negative balance, there's a negative balance. I mean, I'm not going to dispute what the numbers say. But we did budget for it. And according to that was expended. So, but
I think the question today is the dissolution, the resolution is all.
yeah, I mean, I agree, there's no need to continue the relationship. That didn't sound right. There's no need to continue the 28E. The
Correct.
relationship, yes, but the 28E.
Yeah.
So I would make a motion to authorize or to approve the resolution approving the dissolution of the Jefferson County Service Agency. Well, should that say Jefferson County Ambulance?
It is, I apologize, I
Okay.
made I amended it in the 11th hour Friday, so if you want to just add that, the rest of the motion the rest of the resolution
Yeah,
should
it
be
does.
appropriate.
Yes.
So approving the dissolution of the Jefferson County 28E Ambulance Service Agency, hereafter known as the Ambulance Service Agency.
I second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
I just want you to be aware of the money.
So this is the end of a three-legged stool.
Well, I don't think it's the end. Julie, don't we have another meeting in May about this?
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes, we do have one more meeting to actually adopt all these signed agreements and signed officially with all of us there. And then it will be done.
perfect. I appreciate it. Who else was it? It's county, the hospital, and who was the third? The city. Okay, that's fine. Yeah. Are you really busy?
I think I'm going back to work.
Are you?
Yes.
I need about 2 minutes.
Okay.
He's gotta have 2 minutes.
Yeah,
Go for it.
Oh,
but you guys can
He needs a
discuss the
pot
burn
break.
ordinance while I'm.
Thanks,
Next
Josh.
on the
Thanks, guys.
agenda is to discuss and consider the burn ordinance. I will be back. Vice Chair, please assume.
Brett, come on out.
Thank you.
Tell us about the burn ordinance, please.
You've all had a copy of it, right?
Yes,
So what do you want me to tell you?
it's ready for us to approve.
Well, I mean, I'm not, but I'll just read the purpose of it
Sure.
for everybody to know. The purpose of the ordinance is to establish requirements for certain types of controlled burns within Jefferson County. The big part of this burn ordinance is, and we don't have one in this county, but most counties do, is notification is required as a courtesy to avoid the local fire departments and emergency personnel from being called out mistakenly.
Mhm.
So that's kind of it. The burn ordinance just states in there that there's certain types of burning that, but it does say in here that if someone's gonna burn a controlled burn, a structure burn such as a barn or something on an
Sure.
agricultural ground,
Sure.
timber fires, prescribed burns, they shall call the Jefferson County Law Center and report that.
Okay.
And then it goes into different things during burn bans and red flag warnings. So there should never be any question from a resident that they didn't know there was a burn ban or a red flag warning if they were calling in to burn before they burn.
Right.
Your local fire departments get called out all the time for people that are burning that don't call it in. Someone driving down the highway sees a large burn and they call and we respond, or Packwood responds, or Lockwood
Yeah,
responds, or
yeah.
whoever. And those people are taking time out of what they should be taking care of. And then we get there and someone say, well, it's a controlled burn.
Mhm.
And half the time we have to put it out and they get mad.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna burn, all we're asking is that you call ahead of time and let dispatch know what you're burning. And then you must stay, someone has to stay on that burn for as long as it's burning, right?
Yeah.
That's a pretty simple ask, and we're
It only
one of the
makes
only
sense.
counties that don't have a resolution
Yes.
that states that you must call it in. And there are penalties if you don't call it, and the penalties are heavier if it's during a burn ban or a red flag warning.
Mhm.
So that's all the burn ordinance does, is clarify that, and puts the responsibility back on the person that's burning. There's not question marks out there with dispatch or the fire departments thinking, oh, maybe, is that a controlled burn or is that not a controlled burn?
Mhm.
And we have very specific ways we handled at the law center.
Mhm.
Someone calls in, we write on the board. They call the fire department writes it on their board. So for some reason they were to get paged, we can look it up and says, well, there's a controlled burn there. We're not going out there until the landowner calls us and says it's out of control now. And that happens too.
Yeah.
Controlled burns lead to not controlled burns in certain weather. But if they call us and request us, we will go.
I think we need to set a date and time to have a
Look here,
public hearing on the burn ordinance.
but it's the next agenda.
Yeah. Joe, have you read the burn ordinance?
Yes, I have.
You want to make a motion?
For a date for a public hearing,
I think we can do that.
how far out how close can we be, Chris, before we can do it? What do you
What's it, 10
suggest?
days?
10 days at least,
10 days.
less, yeah.
So it would be May the 5th could be the earliest. That's 2 weeks. Right?
What date's May the 5th?
It's a Monday.
Monday? That work for you, Susie?
Oh, yeah. I think Joe made a motion that we to have the,
Public hearing on
Okay.
May the 5th at
Okay.
9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Work,
Yep.
Christie? Okay,
I second Joe's motion. All those in favor?
Hi.
aye.
Motion passed. Thank you very much.
Now I suppose you're gonna do something important, go back to work.
Hey, thank you for the time you spend here.
Oh, you're fine. I'm gonna pay you next time, move me up on the agenda though.
Okay, say, just real quickly, do we get those addresses resolved? Do you know?
Most of them, yes. We're
Okay.
still working on a couple.
Okay,
That's a list of addresses.
yeah,
That's a big list. Yeah, for the most part.
so what you're saying is I screwed it up.
No, you didn't. Maybe one, but no. It looks good.
Her address?
Just
Thanks,
second.
Brett.
Lee,
Yeah, thanks. Okay, thanks everybody for handling that. Number 4, discuss and consider. Oh, I don't know, we've got it. But anyway, discuss and consider appointing Laura Morseberger as medical examiner investigator.
so moved.
Second. This came as, from Dr. Brian Quinn. I guess there's no, I was looking to see if there was a length of time, but there's not. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, I'm going to, is Mark on?
Yes.
Okay. Discuss and consider payout of accrued vacation time for an employee in the treasurer's office. Mark,
Yeah,
you're up close and personal.
hello. I had an employee who was within the 6-month probation, no longer employed. The handbook's a little unclear as to whether or not that person could get their accrued vacation time. So it's roughly 11 hours of vacation time. It is within my budget. I would be curious if you guys would consider approving that payout for the employee.
Are you looking for the handbook, Lee?
Yeah. Oh, right there. No, that's the research record. Anyway. You don't see it as an issue, Mark, right?
No,
I guess.
no, I just wonder if I don't know of any other time where this has happened, so I didn't know if we were setting a precedent and if something would need to change within the handbook. Because
Well,
I normally don't come to you guys unless I'm setting a stinking precedent for something.
9.3. Was this, well, here's what it says on under 9.3. Employees leaving county employment will receive any accrued vacation paid out on their final paycheck. Unless, of course, they resign or retire, then they shall give at least 2 weeks' notice.
Right, and the 2-week notice isn't relevant here because it was within the 6 months of probation. So the 2 weeks was not given by either side.
I don't have a problem with it. So if you want to make them, do we need to? What's it say? Yes, as we have discussed and consider, so I would entertain a motion to approve the payout of the accrued vacation time.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Does that work, Mark?
That's perfect. Thank you guys very much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Discuss and consider adding catastrophic leave donation of vacation time to the Jefferson County Employee Handbook. Darcy's been working hard on this. What I will say is she did some research with other counties. And I think with ISAC, and she came up with this. But catastrophic leave. Well, thank God.
Our ears were burning. So we got some samples from multiple counties. Kind of pieced together, they're all pretty similar. So Darcy pieced together most of the important aspects of them and
So, in the discussion that Darcy and I had, I made the point, that we budget for vacation. We don't budget for sick leave, we budget for vacation.
And
Because,
when you say that, you mean that you expect employees to use their vacation, you don't necessarily inspect it.
right, okay, so it's a cost that we expect at some point during fiscal year. So I personally, if Susie had vacation time that she wanted to donate to you for a specific reason, it doesn't affect our budget one way or the other. The only thing would be, I don't know how important this is, the only thing would be the vacation may be paid out at different rates. Potentially. Because if Susie's getting $2.50 an hour and you're getting $3. I know she's overpaid at $2.50, but that's not the discussion at this moment in time. Hi, Susan.
Hi.
Is your eye still itch?
We'll talk about that.
Okay. So
So
anyway,
if they donate vacation time to another employee, that could be for a medical reason or something like that, and it wouldn't be actually paid out, correct?
well, if an employee, hypothetically speaking, if an employee uses all of their accrued vacation and sick leave time and are still in need of help because of a situation that they're facing, an employee wants to donate the vacation time would be one example, or probably the most prevalent example where that situation would arise.
we found in most of the samples other counties are using, the employee is on FMLA, exhausted all their vacation and sick. And this would help continue their pay for their FMLA.
And I think we set up to 16 hours is what you kind of fixated on.
Yeah,
It would help the individual
have income while they're
have
off.
income while they're
Right.
off.
Yeah.
The only person it would affect would be if Darcy's off and she is running out of vacation time or whatever to use.
Right.
Christie's donation of 2 or 16 hours
Right,
would help Darcy.
right.
So it's.
And that's
it's a-
my point, that
Yeah.
in answer to your question is that would probably be the most likely scenario where somebody had used it all up, what they had available to them, their personal, because of anything. And so this situation arises.
All right, now I'm catching on.
However, it's not mandatory, it's not, and I don't know exactly how it all would be facilitated. In other words, it would just be word of mouth or something, I suppose.
Darcy, was this a situation where, let's say Lee wouldn't have did, which he can't, he's a supervisor, we have no vacation time. Let's say he worked here. he would say, Darcy, I'm gonna donate 16 hours or 8 hours or whatever to this individual. Would they fill out a form so you had proof in the file?
Mhm, yep, we'd have a release form on
Yeah.
both sides, the
I hadn't looked at
donator
that
and the
yet.
donatee.
Yeah, I think you've done a very
We
good job.
both sign a release form.
And it's confidential who
Yep.
is receiving it and
Do
why.
you include like a minimum amount that the employee would have to be taking in order to be eligible for that donation? You know, like they would have to be out for a total of, 14 consecutive days before they're eligible to receive donated hours.
Kind of the
or-
way we've written it, they would be on FMLA, which is 12
Oh.
weeks of leave,
Okay.
of unpaid leave.
Mhm.
um,
Up to,
mhm,
right.
Through
Okay.
FMLA, and that's, like I said, most of the county samples that we were reading did kind of tie it to that FMLA
Okay.
because they wanted it to be something catastrophic and.
Chris must want to say something. She come on.
You just answered my question. I was gonna ask the question if the employee, the recipient of the hours was on FMLA. That was my question. You answered it, Darcy. So thank you for
Yeah.
that. Is there a limit? I mean, I know with FMLA, you get 12 weeks in a 12-month period, but that can roll over to another 12 weeks at some point. So it's a perpetual thing where there's no limit on the amount of time one employee can receive.
Yeah, we didn't write anything in
Okay,
the policy to that effect.
okay,
Just saying that any one employee can donate up to 16 hours. So an employee could accept 16 from Susie, 16 from Joe, 16 from Christy.
Okay.
for that one time during FMLA.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Thank you. I know it's semantics, but I haven't seen it, but I'm just asking the question. Thank you.
Mhm.
And thanks for looking at this. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So would it then go into a bank or does it specifically go to that employee?
To that employee.
And if it's not used, then it just disappears.
Kind of discuss, that's probably the easiest.
Mhm.
I'm just curious, because it'd be hard.
No, that's a good question.
I mean, that the employee that accepted it would keep it. It wouldn't go back to the person that donated it.
Because you wouldn't know whose hours the person,
Right.
whose hours was being used, per se.
Right. Somebody accepted hours from 3 different people.
Yeah, because one of the questions I asked when she first started discussing this was if we put it in a bank, so to speak. But then if you're donating to potentially a
Individual.
specific individual.
Would that be how it would be if I donated to the lady sitting over here sleeping? Would you, it would just be for her, you'd go nowhere else, okay?
But they probably wouldn't consider donating unless they had used up most of their vacation
The
time,
way
correct?
the way our FMLA policy reads in the handbook is that an employee has to use all their sick and everything but 5 hours of vacation. Through that policy, they're allowed to retain 5 hours of vacation on FMLA.
So if somebody I want to make sure I'm clear on this. So if somebody donates vacation time to an individual, they don't have to go on unpaid leave as long as they have donation vacation time. Is that correct?
They can
Okay.
use it on FMLA.
What about a situation where somebody would run out of their FMLA? And they had a child and they had to take him to the doctor 2 weeks after they were back to work. Would that apply to that as well? I'm wondering. Because otherwise they wouldn't have time
Their
to take
FMLA
off.
for that year was already
Yeah,
up, is what you're saying?
yeah.
And they had another
Yeah.
catastrophic.
Or even a child to the doctor and they need some time off. I don't know. But if we don't talk about it, it'll happen for sure.
Mhm.
Well, I guess what I would say is that the opportunity for an employee to donate always exists,
Sure.
right?
Mhm.
There's no specific, it can only be between April 1st and April 15th. So it just, the need is where the need is, and then if an employee
Yeah.
feels the need to donate, that they can do that.
Right.
But again, my point is that it's an expected expense, so whether we're just taking it out of one pocket and putting it in another pocket.
Like,
So Darcy, in this case, I imagine you said they had to have keep 5 vacation hours, so maybe that could be used for something. I'm just,
Mhm. Yeah,
yeah, okay. But-
they exhausted all the
Right,
FMLA, came
right,
back
so
and had
that's why
something
they
else.
probably keep that 5 hours and standby.
Like, what are your thoughts on using sick time?
I'm sorry,
What are your thoughts on using sick time? Because there's also been requests to donate that.
I'm not in favor of that, but I'm just one voice, and the reason is because we don't budget for sick time.
so this donating this vacation time, that doesn't take a hearing or anything. You can just, you get the request today, you can grant it in 2 days or tomorrow and move on. So it isn't,
Both employees to sign the release forms and
because most of the time if somebody's off for spend extended period of time, they know they're gonna need another week or two. It can be done at that time. It isn't something that needs to be done out 2-3 weeks ahead, correct? Okay.
See if I can explain this a little differently than the way I said it. Vacation is a benefit that an employee has, obviously, so is sick pay. But the expectation is that the employee is going to use the vacation time. And so the employee is donating something that takes away from their. Okay, whereas the sick pay is a benefit that is given for a specific purpose and is not budgeted for from budget to budget. And I think what happens then is if you look at it, this is gonna sound horrible, but if we look at it in this context, if an employee donates sick time as opposed to their vacation time, we're gonna pay twice. Because we're gonna pay for the sick time and we're gonna pay for the employee using the vacation time as well, because that's gonna continue to be used. That's my point. So that has a direct impact on the budget. I hate to be that way, but it is a fact, just so that the board is aware that if I have 4 hours of this and 4 hours of that, okay, if I donate this 4 hours, now I'm not gonna be able to use it. Somebody else is going to use it. But if I donate 4 hours of this, I'm still going to use the 4 hours of this. So now I'm paying out 8 hours.
That's true. I understand what you're saying now. You understand it too, right, Darcy? You're the one that handles all of this, correct? I thought.
But right now, what's on the agenda is to discuss and consider the catastrophic leave donation of vacation time, which, like I said, we're just taking that out of one pocket and putting it into another. And I'm perfectly, I mean, I would make the motion to approve that addition to the employee handbook.
I second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Committee reports. Do it, so someone need to,
Thank you, Darcy.
you're welcome.
so you're going to update this.
Good job, Darcy.
Jack will. Best, yeah.
Or just stick it in as a
another
page.
discussion.
Yeah.
Ah.
We'll stick it in.
Hmm.
Well, Steve, there are several of us going to the chamber dinner on Thursday night. Should that be on the agenda? Or do we,
Or all three, you know, children.
just 2 of us? I don't think.
Lee, you gonna go?
No, I forgot all about it anyway.
Talk to you afterwards.
I'm a stuck shirt, but not in that way.
Make sure that's in the minutes, Christine.
So,
Committee reports, I'll start then. On Thursday, I had the traction Thursday at the Eco Lab, and Jim Engel, and I don't remember the other lady from the Iowa Economic Development, was there talking about Fairfield and their application for Main Street. It was a very good presentation, talking about it and this and that, and then I had Sitka meeting, zoomed in on that with the Sitka, and they just talked about a few different things, talked about Dwayne's got something that he was wanting money for. 136 or something. And that's all I had.
Susie?
I of course had a Semco meeting. It was windy 2 days last week and they closed 2 days. But they are doing a really good job.
Yeah.
I think we negotiated another contract with the gentleman that took over for Mr. Wynn. And that went well. Put it out for a few years. It kind of gave you the idea of when you do a contract for 5 years and there's so much increase, it shows you how people's pay could increase over so many years that you don't even realize when we're voting on. So anyway, that was eye-opening to me, but other than that, they're doing very well. I had an insurance board meeting, but I am on an insurance company, and since we're reporting about anything we go to, I want you to know that insurance is going up if you don't already know that. Hang on.
All of my insurance is what you're saying. Mine's
Yeah.
already gone up.
Yeah,
Hopefully it
Oh,
waits another
I
year
think-
before it goes up again.
I think it'll go up some more.
Yeah.
What else? Oh, Main Street, I had several conversations with Mindy about Main Street because I think it's a really good idea. You know, I hope they accept us. You know, and I know we've contributed something. And I think now she's going around asking individuals if they want to donate $100 a year or something. I know it's really helped Mount Pleasant and Atoll in Washington. Anyway, that's all I've done.
You look like you had a question for her.
No, I was just thinking, Mindy sent me a request last week for a letter of support.
Yeah,
Should that come from individuals or should it come from the Board of Supervisors or?
you know, I really don't think it would matter whether it comes from all of us
We're
or
supporting
individually.
it with a donation.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I thought we did a.
Yeah, I thought we
did we
did.
do a letter of support?
I thought.
Okay. Okay.
Joe, we had talked about, that's all I know for
Okay,
sure.
I'm gonna talk to her later today, so I'll ask her for sure.
Yeah,
So I think Abby typed one up for us.
Okay.
yeah, tell you what, little plug for Mindy. I stopped and talked to her the other day and she said, have you been over to the Easter egg bazaar at the McElhaney House? I said, no, I'd like to go. She goes, great, she hopped in the car and she went over and helped me buy stuff. So she's,
Yeah. You know, I delivered the other day, then, their lasagna.
uh-huh,
That was a lot of fun.
nice.
It was.
Thanks for doing that.
So you were the DoorDash?
More or less, yeah. Yeah.
I'd leave Dash.
I didn't do it right in the first two deliveries because I didn't realize I was supposed to bring the paper back. But I thought it was just, okay, how many I'm supposed to leave or what it looks like, right?
Uh-huh.
Salads, whatever. And then I left it with the paper so that they knew who got what.
Mhm,
I'm supposed to bring the paper back.
mhm.
So after that, I brought the paper back. So they may let me do it again next
It
year.
was nice of you to do that.
Yeah, oh, it was fun. So, I didn't have anything last week except labs and I was supposed to fast and I didn't look close enough at my book where it says fast. And I
You know,
had,
You notice the theme of dash and fast?
yeah. So I had a couple swallows of Diet Coke on the way over. So she asked me, were you fasting? She asked me if I had anything to drink. She asked if I fasted. Well, I didn't have anything to eat. So I said, yeah, I'm
Yeah, I
fasting.
come as fast as I could.
That's right. But I did get, we're not having early childhood today, but Tammy did send up an amendment to House File 623 on the early childhood initiative, and there's a couple areas in there that I highlighted that give me pause for concern, only because I never know how it really is all gonna come out in the wash, but the amendment, instead of January that we talked about, the transition, now they're saying July first.
Of this year?
Yes, no, I'm sorry, of 2026.
Okay.
So will basically not start till, well, the beginning of the next fiscal year, as opposed to the middle of this fiscal year, or, yeah. But it also states that the department shall designate early childhood Iowa areas in the same number and using the same geographic boundaries as the behavioral health districts designated by the department. So there might be some changes yet. Like say, we are currently in district number 6 with 14 counties. I think mental health, if I'm not mistaken, is 19. But don't quote me on that. Also, this was what really gave me pause for concern. The state board shall distribute school-ready children grant monies to area boards with approved comprehensive community plans based upon a determination of the success of the area board. Now, the success is being determined by evidence of successful collaboration among public and private early care, education, health, and human service interests in the area, or a documented program design that supports a strong likelihood of a successful collaboration between these interests. I feel like that is, congratulations, Polk County and Scott County and Lynn County.
You've got to be so many miles on either side of I-80.
Yeah, yeah. Because I may be completely wrong on this, but I'm a little bit, always feel like that rural Iowa gets the short end of the stick, and this certainly appears like that possibility could exist again. And I'm sure Tammy has some concerns, but till the session's over with and until we see, I don't know. But they're changing, they're calling it an early childhood Iowa area. And it means a geographic area designated by the department in accordance with this chapter. So, public comments. Hearing none.
I have something, I mean,
Oh, I'm
it's not
sorry.
necessarily a public comment, but I did just want to get it on everyone's agenda. Friday, as you know, Brian Thomas has filed a legal action against the county. So Chauncey wants to kind of get you all in a closed session on Friday to discuss what's going on. Friday at 10 o'clock at our office, if that works.
I had an appointment with Dr. Downey at 9 AM in Burlington.
Okay. Well, if there's another time, I know he proposed Friday, but maybe we could do it later on in the day.
I've got,
If you all are free.
I got Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday open. I've got morning meetings on Thursday, but I can do it Thursday afternoon.
Okay, well, I guess suppose maybe he can just coordinate with Christie, maybe if you wanna let Christie know your availability and just get on
So
the
I've got,
agenda.
okay, so I've got
Obviously, we can't do
Surrey
it
and
tomorrow,
Transit
but
on Thursday morning, but I can be back here by noon on Thursday.
I'm open Thursday afternoon.
And of course, I'm open Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
yeah, maybe Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
Would be best. So maybe what, 2 o'clock?
That would work for
Let's
me.
propose that and then. if
This
it's-
Friday at 2?
Pardon?
This Friday at 2?
Yes,
That would work for
Mhm.
me.
will give us enough time to get it
Okay.
on the agenda.
Haley,
Hello.
I just want to give you guys a quick update again about Tall Cop. We have 51 people registered. It's a week from Tuesday, just as a reminder. So that's exciting. I'm looking forward to it if I'm here. If not, we have Plan B in place for the CEs. I just have a quick question to the three of you. I know the opioid settlement dollars are going to pay for some light refreshments, so I wanted to know how I needed to handle that. I'm gonna order them from Hy-Vee tomorrow, but how do you want me to see if they'll invoice the supervisors, or how do you want me to handle that? We're just gonna get some small muffins for the breakfast.
Invoicing the supervisors would be a clear way to show how much we spent on stuff.
Yeah, if they'll invoice us directly,
Okay,
that would work.
okay, all right. If they don't, do you have a second option? Or, I mean-
They could invoice Susie directly.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
well, what I was gonna say is, I mean, we could pay for it from our budget, but then you know how that goes and trying to play the budget game. I'll see, hopefully they'll invoice the supervisors directly. So I just wanted to ask that question and see how you wanted me to proceed. So,
Yeah.
okay, thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Chris,
Yes. I was trying to unmute myself. Yes.
that's never happened.
I know. See, that's why I'm on
Chris,
Zoom. You like it.
I'd like
Yes,
to
ma'am.
stop by when this is over with and get one of those brochures from the Tall Cop, because there are a couple employers in town that are interested in that, if they'd be welcome.
Oh, some flyers. Okay, sure. Yep, I'll print some off.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye. Thank you.
For short people eligible for that.
Tall Cop,
Yeah.
they give you a stool, okay?
Okay, well, I thought, well, okay.
Put flags on your ears.
I just thought it was an opportunity to, if I could be a tall cop.
Oh, God.
What?
Christie,
I haven't had enough coffee yet for that.
pray for us. Pray for us.
Right. Excuse me, I would entertain a motion to approve claims or allow claims and approve reports
So moved.
in the amount of $88,183.32.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All things considered, we did pretty good. Oh. I think I already went through these. I'm not sure.
I think well, I don't know if you're saying that.
I did on that one. But I think I put them on your desk. Yes, I did.
You did.
Went to Donaldson to the races Saturday night. They were really good. They had 5 classes. What did the keep going? Oh, they had 5 classes. And late model, modifieds, sport mods, 4 cylinders, street stock, and hobby stock. And had a lot of cars. They had one vintage car there. 64 Chevelle. But 3/8 mile track, it's just perfectly banked. They had some really close competition. I mean, it was good. It was cold, but not near as cold as Eldon the previous week. Wasn't
Right.
quite as windy, and there wasn't anything coming off the river.
Right,
Like it was at Eldon.
Yeah.
I left early at Eldon. I couldn't hardly take it anymore. But
Motion to
I went
adjourn.
to soccer game
Yes.
Saturday morning.
we have a motion to adjourn.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I can't-
Second.
Thank you.
All those in discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Yes, we are still on Zoom.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.